All right. Looks like we are live. Good evening, everybody. Glad you could join us. Hopefully, a few more will join as we go along here.
Looks like we got Mike DC is in the house. Grayson will be in and out. I think he's got other things occupying him, but he's always good to join.
Yeah. So, Jed, I don't know whether Bracken will join. I haven't heard from Bracken yet. I'm guessing not, but
Yeah,
he's
maybe he'll jump in. We'll just
yeah,
like for the next several weeks during football season, we'll just hope Bracken joins, and if he doesn't, we'll
yeah.
wish him well.
He's got dad duties, which are way more important than B duties.
That's right. That's right. Usually he can do both, but a little occupied right now.
Yeah, timing just doesn't work for him. So, well, good evening, everybody. Jed, what's going on in your world?
Well, it's topical because it's what we're going to talk about tonight. But um, you guys know I took the supers off about 3 weeks earlier than I was used to, and so I'm treating uh, now and feeding now, and this is earlier than I've ever done it. So last week, against everybody's best judgment, apparently, I put the Apivar strips in my hives. I think they're going to work. I haven't used them before. I think they're going to work. I feel good about it. That's what I'm telling myself. And why wouldn't they? So
Uh,
we'll keep an eye on that.
but you haven't used Apivar for a number of years, so my guess is you're going to be just fine.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it's those that use Apivar spring, summer, and fall every year. I think those are the ones that are having a hard time.
yeah. So I hope so. So I put those in, and then just made sure the bees were good. That like the all the hives were queen right. The the hives were full, having taken off all of those supers. Everything looked good, like knocking on wood over here. And now I'm in full feed mode. Like the so I had taken, let's see, I had single brood management, right? And so I had taken the supers off of there. And so after I harvested the honey, I'm going to go into winter. I want to go into the winter with two deeps. So I took uh, one of the supers and added it to each of the hives. So now I've got the double deep in each hive. And after I had fed for a week, I went back in there, and there were like it was pretty full. Like those top boxes, the queen really hadn't messed around up there. The queen was staying down and laying down in the bottom box still, and the top was already getting quite heavy. So they're going to work and eating a lot, and we'll talk more about that. But that's the mode that I'm in: treat and feed.
You're in a lot the same mode I am. I got hive treatments on my hives this last Monday. Um, and I did Formic Pro on my hives. And just because our temperatures were going to drop this week, and they did, and they've stayed pretty much below 80. The day I put them in, they were a little bit higher, like 83 or something. But the rest of the week, it's been below 80, which is just about perfect for Formic Pro.
Yeah, the timing worked out well for you. As soon as you took the
Yeah,
supers off, the temperatures dropped.
yeah, I like it when that happens. It doesn't happen every year, but the years that it does, then I can get my treatments on and get those mites knocked back really early. I have to watch them still for the rest of the fall, but um, getting them knocked back now is a big plus, in my opinion, because now the bees that are going to be raised next are going to be the bees that raise your winter bees. So if
This
you have healthy bees, make healthy brood. So my thinking is let's get those bees healthy now so that when they start raising that winter brood, they're healthy, which makes that winter brood healthy, and then you have healthy bees going into winter.
What is that? When does that winter? How do you know when that winter brood is starting? Like I kind of assumed it's right now, but maybe it's early now.
It's a tad early, um, in my opinion. I think that winter brood is going to be coming on about uh, here in about a week, 10 days in middle of September. On that, to me, that's your winter brood.
Is there a way to tell the difference, Glade, between like the winter brood and a regular brood, or is it just timing?
It's timing. I think if you pulled bees out and started dissecting them, but you'd have to start comparing fat bodies from one bee to the next to figure out who's a winter bee and who's a summer bee.
I'll tell you
And
one thing I was surprised about that I did see this last week, Glade, just speaking of timing, is I saw very, very few drones in my hives. Like like
yeah,
way fewer.
and I had hives that were still raising drones, like drone brood still all over the place. So my hives haven't shut down the drone brood making yet,
I
but
did
I
see
think
some
they're
of it.
about to.
Yeah, yeah. I did see some of it, but not much. And then just the quantity of drones walking around um, just seemed lower, and that seems earlier than other years to me. Like usually I wouldn't see that until middle or late September even, and it just seemed weird that it was. Maybe it was just my perception, but I didn't see a lot of drones.
Yeah, and I was expecting to see less drone brood than I did, and I was seeing quite a bit more than I thought I had in the past. So interesting.
Hmm.
Bees seem to know what they're doing, though. We'll let them, let them figure it out. Um, but yeah, that kick out the drones, quit making drone brood. That is a sign they're they're getting ready for fall real quick
Yeah,
here.
that's what DC's saying. That's a good comment to pin. Like I think that's one of the indicators is drone broods declining, and then you know, like that's an
Right.
indicator of that brood cycle.
Yeah. And he's absolutely right. It all depends on location. All depends on what your weather's doing, depends on where you're at. Um, so for me to say, yeah, they're doing it now, well, they might be doing it here, but that doesn't mean they're doing it somewhere else. So the other thing that I was really surprised as I got into some of my hives was they're starting to bring in some nectar again. And I was surprised to see that because we've been so dry. This week was the first rain we've had all summer long. I mean, we've been 5 months without rain of any measurable. So we finally got some rain this week, and but my bees were bringing something in. And talking with one of the farmers out here, he said, "Well, he said I think what you're seeing might be since we're so dry out here, the farmers are pretty well out of water. There won't be much water from here on out for the farmers, and so they're letting this last crop of alfalfa go a little longer, which means it's going into bloom. And I think that's where my bees are picking up some nectar and they're backfilling boxes, and which is for me is great because if they backfill some of that, then I don't have to feed them. So that's my hope. But I don't want them to backfill it too soon because I still want them to raise that winter brood. And if they plug out that brood area too much, then that queen can't lay that winter brood.
I was
So it's a
wondering about
tricky balance trying to figure out, are they heavy enough for winter? You want to get them nice and heavy for winter, but you can't do it too soon. If you do it too soon, then you've backfilled that brood nest and the queen doesn't have anywhere where to lay. And now your winter bee population is just smaller. simply because the queen doesn't have room to lay. So it's a little bit of a tricky balance trying to figure out, do I feed? Do I not feed? Are they bringing stuff in? Are they not bringing anything in?
What's your rule of thumb there, Glade? Like, I was thinking that this last weekend when I was doing the inspection, they were already, I'm feeding. They're slurping up that sugar syrup. They're filling those frames on that top box, not so much on the bottom. That's where she's laying.
What are you feeding though? Are you feeding 2-to-1 or 1-to-1?
It was about, it's not that scientific. It was about 1.5 to 1.
So a little bit thicker.
Mm-hmm.
So the thicker you make that syrup, the more they want to store it. The thinner you make it, then it's more stimulative towards brood rearing. So I'm still doing 1-to-1 or even a little bit thinner. Because I still want, and mostly because I'm feeding my nukes, and my nukes need some food. I mean, I need to stimulate them to raise a little brood a little longer. So I'm feeding thin syrup still. And my bigger production hives, I think they're going to be fine. I may not have to feed them at all. Right now, there's enough food, enough nectar coming in that I'm not going to touch them. I don't want to backfill that brood nest too quick. As we get into late September, then I'm going to really kind of watch my hives and go, okay, they're a little bit too light, a little bit, maybe they're plenty, they've got enough. If they're a little light, then I've still got some time to feed them some syrup. And that's just, I think that just takes experience to kind of to figure out if you need to feed or if you don't need to feed. But I see too many hives go into winter that are way too light, especially with new beekeepers. They think, oh, they pull up a frame of honey and they look at it or at the top and they think, oh, they've got lots of food. Well, no, I want that box in my area. I want 60 pounds of honey on them at least. That's kind of a
you
minimum.
Want 60 pounds in the whole hive? Like if I've got doubles, 60 to 90 pounds has kind of been my rule of thumb, not per box though.
Right.
Okay.
Right. If you're going to do double deeps, then in my mind, by middle of October, that top box has got to be completely full, plus 3 to 4, maybe even 5 frames on the sides in the bottom box. Got to be full. But we can't. Again, you can't fill that bottom box out with syrup yet, because you still want that queen to lay. So
what you do, just kind of restating, what you do then is you're feeding thin now because they'll use that to make the brood.
Yeah, I just want to keep them going. I don't want them to break into their winter stores. So give them some thin syrup now so that they don't touch their winter stores. They feel like, oh, I got enough. I've got enough feed. I'm okay. And it still keeps that brood nest going.
Got it. And then as you get closer, temperatures start to cool. You'll feed them. You feel like the population is good. You'll feed them the thicker.
Yeah, and then if I feel like, oh, they're not heavy enough, then I'll switch to a thicker syrup to bulk them up.
Well, I wonder, like with single brood management, I wonder if that's a little bit different for me. Like I'd like Bracken's opinion on that, and of course, Glade, your opinion on this, which is, I don't like when you say winter stores, I don't have winter stores now because I took everything above that single box.
That single box.
Yeah. So right now they're just packing. Now I've got 2 deeps on. They're packing that top deep, but I don't have stores in the bottom. In the bottom. Yeah. So I wonder if the strategy is a little bit different, or maybe the timing's a little different for me. But I still have a little bit of concern with having enough room for the queen. Like if she stays in the bottom, she's going to have plenty of room.
Right.
If she tries to go to the top, it's going to get pretty full.
One deep is plenty of room for a queen.
Yeah. So
if
we're
if it's
probably
not
fine.
packed out with honey.
Yeah. At least right now it's not. I'll keep an eye on it. But the research that I did early and kind of the rule of thumb that I heard was when you're in feed mode, like right now, kind of feed them until they stop taking it. And like I don't know about like I don't know. I'd love your opinion on that.
I don't know whether I quite agree with that. I think if it's a new package or a nuke in the spring, yeah, feed them. Just feed the heck out of them and feed them till they quit taking it. But in the fall, I think that's a different story. I think you could pack out your brood nest to the point where that queen just doesn't have any room to lay, and now she can't raise that winter nest and get that winter bee population up, because you've got to realize your whole bee population is going to turn over here in the next 2 months. It it does all summer, but it's going to completely turn over in the next couple of months here.
How
Every
long do
bee
you
in that hive is going to be dead in the next two months, and they're going to have to replace all of them with those winter bees.
How long do you
So
figure you've got? Do you figure you've got about 2 months from now until you kind of wrap up your hive and do your winterizing?
I won't really winterize. I won't really do too much until the end of October. Um, to me, feeding bees in the fall is just kind of a tricky play it by ear game. Um, you want to feed them fast enough that you get enough weight on them for winter, not too fast to pack out the brood nest too soon. But if you don't get enough on there, then they don't make it through winter, or you're going to be feeding in the spring quickly. So it's a little bit of an art to get that right, and every hive's a little different. For the most part, though, from what I see with my bees, if I can feed them thin syrup for the next 3 weeks, and then if I need to fatten them up and get them a little heavier, then I switch to a thicker syrup. And I'm just going to play it by ear. I'm going to watch the brood nest, make sure that queen's got at least 5 or 6 frames to lay in that are pretty open, that still have room for her to lay in. And then if they're packing it out a little too quick, then I back off on the feed and let them consume a little bit. And they're going to consume it, because here in the next 2 months, what's going to come in the next 2 months? Almost nothing, unless you've got an alfalfa field that they've let go to bloom. They just didn't cut it. This rain's going to help a little bit for us, because it's going to prompt a few of the fall flowers, the rabbit brush, and a few things to produce a little more. But I think the rain's perfect timing. It's going to help with this a little bit of a fall flow, and the hives that need a little bit of weight, I think they'll make it on their own. If not, then I'll start feeding a little bit, but I'm not quite ready to do that. I've still got my I put Formic Pro on my hives, and it's got another. I just put it on Monday, and so it's 2-week treatment. So it's got a week and a half before it comes back off, and then I'll really start to analyze: do I need to feed? Do I not need to feed? Do they have enough?
What would you say, Glade, to folks that don't feed? Like you've got your opinions and I've got mine, and sometimes you vary things up, and there's a philosophy like let the bees take care of themselves and don't feed. And you say you've seen that from especially early beekeepers. What would you say to them?
Yeah, there are some beekeepers that they, and I don't want to knock the all natural beekeeping method, that's fine if that's what you want to do. But I look at it as bees are livestock. If your horse is out in the field, or your cow, or your, even your dog or your chicken or whatever, if they're hungry, feed them. And in this case with bees, you're feeding to get them through the next, for us, for 5 months. I mean, we're trying to get them from now until March, end of March for us. So, we're 5, almost 6 months that they don't have anything coming in, or very little coming in. So the idea for me is, if they're going to be hungry in the spring, that's because they don't have enough going into fall. So the the idea of, oh well, you should never feed your bees, I don't agree with that. I think there are times when you should feed your bees, and then it also depends a little bit on your management style. If you're going to run single brood chamber management, and you're going to, the reason people do that is so they can harvest more honey and pull all that honey off that the bees have made. Well, if you're going to, that's fine if you're going to pull all that honey off, but then you've got a part of your management plan has to be, well, now how do I get them through winter? Which means you're going to have to feed.
Yeah, if you're a non-feeder, then single brood management is probably not.
Yeah, then that style just probably doesn't work for you. If you're really unconcerned about honey, honey's not your primary objective here, then you leave as much honey on the hive as you feel like they are going to need for winter. Maybe instead of 2 boxes for winter, there are 3 boxes for winter, and the top 2 are completely full of honey. So now, now you're leaving 100 plus pounds of honey on the hive, and yeah, they're going to be fine. It's all about your, what's your goals for your bees. My goal is, I'm in it for honey. So,
hey, DC's asking, what's the distance between us? How many miles do we have?
What are we, 150 miles?
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, just,
150 miles. And then Bracken from me is more like, he's probably 3.5 hour drive. He's probably 200 miles, not quite.
Yeah, so Glade is largely straight east from me, and Bracken is largely straight north of me. So you have a bit of an L. Bracken's the top of the L. I'm in the middle, and Glade's over to the end of the L. And we have pretty different climates. Mostly Glade is different from me and Bracken. Glade's is drier.
We're drier out here. We have a mountain range between Jed and I, and that mountain range catches every storm that comes through, and it all dumps on the mountain range. And by the time it gets to us, it's gone. There's nothing left. Yeah,
Utah's, I mean, it's a pretty big state in terms of, there's a lot of space. You have most of the population on what we call the Wasatch Front. That's just on the west side of the Wasatch Mountain Range that runs north and south. But you have a massive rural community spread all over Utah.
Yeah. Are we a high desert? Yeah, we would probably be considered a high desert. Altitude here is about 5,100 feet.
Yeah, and I'm at about 4,500 feet, and I don't know, like, I consider we're the desert, and if we're desert on this side, Glade's way desert.
Yeah, they'll get little storms come through, and they'll get rain when we won't, even though the general flow is from west to east. 3 inches of rain for Jay Mackley. Oh
yeah. Jay's up between me and Bracken. What's up, Jay? I was buying a package of bees earlier this year for a friend of mine to go install them in Salt Lake, and there was Jay hanging out, delivering the packages of bees. He's like, "Hey, you're Jed." Hadn't met. So Jay's pretty cool. He's up, I believe, Ogden area, if I remember right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That north of Salt Lake got hammered with rain.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go in. Let's chat more about this, Glade. We're just picking your brain here. So let's say you get behind and you're pretty late in the season and your hive is underweight, like, and maybe it's to the point where the bees don't have time to cure it. Like, should you just give up on feeding, or should you scramble? Like, what's the play there?
Yeah, around here, by the 1st of November, you're probably pretty well. It's pretty hard to get feed on them and get them to store it. They don't have any time, like you said, to cure that and that syrup and get it down moisture content. And you don't want to be putting a ton of moisture in your hive right before winter, right? So if temperature, my general rule of thumb, if daytime temperatures are under 60, then it's probably too late to feed. If you're consistently going over 60, yeah, I think you can still feed syrup. You may want to be switching to a thicker syrup. The later we go into the year, then if you're still needing to feed, then I think switching to a thicker 2-to-1 or even a 3-to-1, then yeah, you're going to have to do that. If you get to the point where, okay, I can't feed syrup anymore, and when you get below 60 degrees, you're pretty well there. Syrup just doesn't flow out of anything at those kind of temperatures. It's too thick for the bees to really consume it. Now you've got to switch to something else. Either you're going to switch to a dry sugar or a fondant, which are fine, And I've had hives that burn through their stores during the winter, and I'm come February, and I'm feeding them dry sugar just to keep them going until spring.
Yeah, I've had, when I started my channel, it was winter, and I had some videos of me cracking open my hives and checking on them, and I got bad mouthed a little bit because I had dry sugar in there. But here's what I found with dried sugar. I've noticed that it serves two purposes. So I'll put like some paper down and then put dry sugar on that. Where mites are the main killer of bees over the winter, I would say freezing to death because of the moisture, like dripping on them. Condensation is probably the second, at least in what I've seen. That dried sugar catches that condensation that raises, and it solidifies, like it turns into hard sugar, and so it serves those two purposes. So I'm a big fan.
I put dry sugar on my hives. Well, not completely dry. Let me back up just a little bit. So what I'll do, and I do this more for insurance purpose, and I consider this as cheap insurance just to keep that hive going. About the 1st of November, and I don't do it any sooner than that, because if I do it sooner than that, bees will pull out. If you do it too soon, bees will pull that dry sugar out and dump it out the front of the hive. Yeah. And you'll have a line of sugar on the ground right in front of the entrance. They don't look at dry sugar as feed until they need it. And before that, they look at it as, got something foreign in the hive, got to get rid of it. And they will just pack it out and dump it out the front door. And so I wait until November, to the point bees are really clustering up and staying in a cluster most of the time. And then I go in and I have shims that are about 2.5 inches. And my feeder shims all have a screen on the bottom, like 1/2 inch hardware screen, something the bees can easily go through. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll line it with newspaper, and I usually cut a hole in the middle of the newspaper so the bees have an easy way to get up into the sugar. And then I'll pack it with 5 or 6 pounds of dry sugar on top of that. But I don't do straight dry sugar. I use, I put a little apple cider vinegar in the sugar, just enough to make that sugar kind of like wet sand. And then I'll pack that in that shim, and then about first part of November, I'll put that shim on top of my hive. I also put some foam, like a 2-inch foam insulation on top, the pink stuff, not the pink fluffy stuff, but the hard, rigid pink foam insulation.
And what do your bees think about the vinegar?
Bees don't mind it at all. It actually increases the acidity level of the sugar just a little bit, which makes it a little closer to honey. The reason I used to just use water, but what I found, if I just moistened it with a little bit of water, come spring, that sugar would mold. There's just, like you say, you've got condensation occurring in the hive, and it rises up and hits that sugar, and the sugar absorbs some of that moisture and condensation, which is great because it keeps it from dripping back down on the bees. But sometimes it gets too wet, and then you get mold growing on the sugar, and I didn't like that. So I started using a little apple cider vinegar. I don't get any mold anymore, and the bees consume it just fine. They don't. I don't see that there's any problem with it.
So you just put 4, 5, 6 pounds of sugar in a bowl, pour whatever.
A tablespoon. It doesn't take very much. Tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons of vinegar. Stir it up a little bit to where it's just that sugar's just a little bit moist. You can almost pack it like wet sand, and then I pack that in my feeder shim and put my feeder shim on top. And within a day or two, all that sugar is going to be hard as a rock. And you'd think, well, the bees can't eat it that way, and you're partly right. The bees have a hard time consuming dry sugar. They need moisture. They need liquid water in order to do that. Well, that's where condensation in the hive can be a good thing, because that condensation helps soften that up just a little bit and gives the bees a chance to gather some water, which they need in order to dissolve the sugar and actually consume it. But again, if you don't have, that's why I put the 2-inch foam insulation on top, is to force the condensation to occur on the outside walls of the hive, not on the underside of the lid. If the condensation occurs on the underside of the lid, then it's just going to drip back down on the bees, and wet bees or dead bees.
Yeah.
So the insulation is part of the scheme here. Putting the insulation, I put that insulation right. I put the sugar in the feeder shim, and then I put the insulation right on top of it, and push it down just as tight as I can get it. And that gets that condensation gets it pushed to the outside walls of the hive, where the bees can go get it. And now they've got the moisture they need to consume the dry sugar. So that's my strategy. I like it that way. I've had really good success doing it that way.
I'll probably ask you more about that as we get closer. I think I'll use that strategy. Like I said, I've been using dry sugar and it's worked well, but I like that idea better. Um, Question, Glade. Um, what's your operation for keeping, or tips and tricks for keeping feeding easy and efficient?
Um,
I saw
I don't.
you
I'm not
doing
sure
it.
I've got that figured out.
Well, I was dropping off the what it was it the honey harvest tool, the planer, and
Oh,
you were in the process of feeding. So I have an idea what you do, but why don't you share, and then I'll share
well,
my method.
for now, I'm feeding mostly my nukes, and so I'm just making 1-to-1 sugar syrup, and I make it up in 5-gallon buckets. I have it's probably more like a 6 or a 7-gallon bucket. It's a little bit taller than a normal 5-gallon bucket. And I just have a line drawn on the bucket, which is about 3 gallons of water. And I just fill it full of hot water from the tap. And then I dump in a 25-pound bag of sugar. And I use a paint mixer on the end of a drill and just mix it. And hot water and a 25 pounds of sugar, 1-to-1, mix, and it's fine. You don't have to heat the water any more than that. Just mix it for a minute or two. And then I pour that into some jugs that have like a 5-gallon jug that's got a pour spout on it. And then I can just I like using buckets to feed syrup for my small nukes. Buckets they're a slow method of feeding. You can do an inside the hive frame feeder. If you need to get syrup on a hive fast, then an inside the hive frame feeder works great. If you're trying to really bulk them up quick, get a frame feeder, put it in the hive, fill it full of syrup, and they'll consume that quickly. That's one way to get some quick weight on a hive, is through a frame feeder. If you do a bucket feeder, then it's a slower process. And I like that for stimulating the bees to raise brood. I think when they've just kind of got a slow, steady flow of nectar coming, or syrup in this case, coming into the hive, I think that's more stimulative for them to raise brood. And that's what I want my nukes to be doing right now, is raise brood. I'm looking for population right at the moment. And in the next couple of weeks, then I'll be switching to, okay, now I need you gals to put some weight on. And that gets a little harder in the nukes, but it's doable. For a big full-size hive, I like a bucket feeder right now on top of the hive. All of my hives, this upper lid here, right underneath the rock, right in the center, has a hole with a tent plug in it. So I just pull the tent plug, slap a bucket on top, and feed them that way, and it works really well. I do have frame feeders, and I will use them, and I like them. But for a quick feed for just one hive, I like the bucket feeders as well. The things I don't like about the buckets is they always leak around the rim of the bucket, and then the bees are all over it, and it kind of creates a bit of a frenzy around that bucket, and I don't like that very well, but I haven't figured out anything better.
Couldn't you just put a box around it with the lid on top? So
You could, and if you run like an inner cover with like a telescoping outer cover, then that works really quite well. Put your inner cover on. It's usually got a hole right in the middle. Turn your bucket upside down, or your quart jar, and then put another empty box shell around it, and then put your lid on top of that. I don't I don't usually do it that way. I don't use an inner cover. I don't have one. I actually don't own one. So I have to figure out something else. I either need to redesign my lids so that I could do that, and I might do that. Most of the time, what I end up doing for these hives is I just use a frame feeder on the inside.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense. I did like mine is simple. Like I've got the three hives right outside my window. I use the external feeder. I know that I'm supposed to worry about robbing with that, and there is some robbing and some battling, but
yeah,
I haven't worried about it too much, and it's just so convenient for me. Like just today, like we jumped on this live stream, and I was like, I gotta go feed, and Glade thought I was talking about getting a sandwich or something. I just reached and ran
he,
out.
he went outside to feed his bees.
Like I did, like it's a simple operation. Like I keep my bucket of sugar water on my stove. I grab the jars, fill them up, go take them out. Like no big deal. Um, uh,
And I don't care for those entrance feeders just because they can cause robbing. If especially if you put in like Hive Alive or anything like that in it that's got some lemongrass oil in it, oh, the bees just that can set off a robbing frenzy in a heartbeat.
I do
But
keep some of that high. Like I've got my own recipe of essential
right,
oils I put in there, and they do. I can't deny they do like it, but
so
they
if
seem to be healthy enough to protect it, and I've
yeah,
got
a
no
good
problem.
strong hive's not. They're going to be okay, right? Um, but a small weak hive, I think you're I think you're setting the hive up for a robbing frenzy. But
Yeah.
you can avoid that a little bit if you take your Boardman feeder, your entrance feeder, and slide it clear to one side, and then put an entrance reducer right
Mm.
next to it so that the entrance to the hive is on the opposite side of your feeder. Then I think you can discourage the robbing enough that now that smaller hive has only a 2-inch opening to defend, and they can do that. So I I don't care for those entrance feeders. I think if you're going to feed water, if your bees need some water and out here in this dry climate, I think it's a great thing. I think you can put water in those and get water on the hives with them, and I think that works great.
I
But I
like
don't.
the entrance reducer. Like I know that it creates some robbing. My hives have been strong enough that I haven't worried about it. I wouldn't do it with a weak hive. But like DC's point, it might be exciting to watch, but probably pretty devastating. Um, Very exciting, but not very enjoyable. But
Right.
I think I'm safe. I might eat my words. I've been doing this. I don't know how long I've been beekeeping, 8, 9, 10 years, and haven't had issues with it in terms of like destroying a hive. But the entrance reducer is a good idea. I could put something on there to make it less convenient
Yeah.
for robbers to get to it.
Because really, if you think about it, with those entrance feeders, all a robber bee has got to do is get around the corner, in the entrance and around the corner. And if too many of them try to do that at the same time, they'll overwhelm the hive.
Have
And
you have you had that happen to one of your hives, like where the one got robbed out?
oh yeah, I've had hives robbed out, and that's why I try to keep, I'll make up my nukes out in my other yards right next to my big production hives. And during the summer, they're fine. The big hives, there's enough other stuff for the big hives to go off and forage, and they just leave the nukes alone. They don't even bother them. But as we get into fall and the nectar flow shuts off, um, then I get my smaller nukes and I move them to a yard by themselves, and I don't leave them in a yard with my big production hives. Some of these hives, this is actually last year's picture, I think. But even with 3 boxes, 3 mediums, I go pop the lid on them and they're still just boiling with bees. I mean, you almost can't put the lid back on because you can't smoke them out of the way fast enough. They just, my hives are still bearding because, you know, I've pulled all my honey supers off and now they had 6 boxes to move around in. Now they've only got 3. And so the bees are bearding, and then you throw Formic Pro on them and then they really want to beard. And that's okay. That's okay. They'll quit doing that as soon as it starts to cool off. And they're not hurt. They're not going anywhere. They're not not going to swarm. I rarely, I'm not sure I've ever had a hive swarm on me this late in the season.
You know, I was thinking the same thing, like not worried about it at all.
No.
And then I was going through the inspection, and in one of the queen cups, there was a bunch of queen cups in one of the hives, and I was just checking them, and one of them had an egg in it. And I'm like,
oh,
what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I don't want to deal with the swarm right now. I can't. Like, what are we doing? And then so I got rid of that one, and we are queen, right? Like the queen is in there. She's fine. She's laying. Like the brood patterns look good. And I looked at the other queen cups and there was nothing in there. So I'm scratching it off as an accident. Like I don't know what I'm doing laying in it right now. I've never had that happen this late in the season ever.
I had going through my hives, you know, a week or so ago. I was just kind of checking queen status, making sure everybody's got a queen. And I had one hive that I'd marked queen cells and couldn't find the queen. And so I thought, this will be a combine, right? I'll just end up combining this hive with something else. And I thought it's a little late in the year for that. But I left it anyway. I'm like, oh, let's just see what they do. Well, I came back and opened the hive and popped the lid, and sure enough, they'd raised a new queen, and she got mated, and she was laying an absolutely beautiful brood pattern, just solid sheets of brood. I'm like, okay, I'll leave you. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I was expecting to have to combine that hive with something else. But no, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Bees knew what they were doing.
Well, if this hive, like to Jay's point, I think they're trying to do a supersedure. It's the same hive that superseded earlier this year, and kind of similar thing, Blade, where the new queen in there just has been crushing it. Just great work. And if they do that, like the other thing that I worry about, because I saw so few drones in there, is how are you going to get a new queen if they kick the old queen out? Like, how are you going to get a new queen at this point?
Yeah.
That's laying. So I just don't want it. So I'm fingers crossed. I will keep you updated. I didn't record that on the video. I didn't think about it. I was doing other stuff, but I'll have to let you know what I see. I'll go in there this weekend and find out.
Yeah. It kind of, I always chuckle because, you know, here we are, end of August, right? Getting a queen right now is
not likely.
Not likely, right? And forget trying to raise one around here. That's just not going to happen. You're 16 days, right? If you started today, you're 16 days. So now you're the middle of September. Now she's got to get mated. Where's the drones? Well, they've been kicking the drones out for the last couple of weeks, right? So drone population's going down. Your odds of getting a queen right now are just around here are just not good at all.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, what are they thinking? They know this.
Yeah, they know that.
This. You can't be superseding right now. What are we doing? So maybe it's a new queen that's in here as of this year. So maybe she's not healthy. Like, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe she's not
mated.
My way. Yeah, maybe she's not mated as well as they think she should be.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Maybe that's the deal. It's fun though. Like it kind of kept me on my toes. I did not expect it at all. I cracked open the tank. I'm like what? I
just
think I literally said that. Like, what are you doing? Right
just
now?
about the time you think you've got them all figured out, they're going to pull something like this on you.
Yeah. Well, Glade, we're about the time we got to start wrapping. Like, what you got coming up the next week?
The next week is because I've put formic on my hives. There'll be another week, so all of next week that formic stays on. Formic went on my production hives. My small nukes I haven't treated yet. I'm still feeding them a little bit, well, quite a bit. I'm still feeding them, so that's the goal for the next week or two is feed these nukes and really get them fed up and get some good brood and hopefully start putting some weight on these nukes. And then I'll give those nukes a treatment, probably Apiguard, just because with Apiguard I can control how much gel I put in each hive. I can kind of dial that in a little bit per hive and not gas them out too bad. And then so I'll probably do that in the next 10 days or so. Do a round of Apiguard on these nukes. And then after that, it's just keep them fed. So
yeah, it's pretty simple.
I don't go into my hives. I won't dig down in my hives. I already know they're queen right, and if they're not queen right, they're not going to make it. And so I may peek real quick just to make sure that they are queen right from here on out. But it'll be pull one frame. If I see brood, put it back. I really don't go in my hives too much from here on out. I just let them do their thing. I'm really what I'm doing, and I suggest everybody do this. Your hives are hopefully as heavy as they ever are for winter, right? You're trying to get them fed up and heavy for winter. So go up to the back of the hive and pick up the back of the hive. You don't have to pick up the whole hive. Just heft the back of the hive a little bit. Just get a feel for how heavy that hive is. And if you do that 3 or 4 times, you'll kind of get a feel of, okay, this is heavy, and it should be heavy. It should feel like a box of rocks. But now you've got a reference. So come January, you don't have to disturb the bees. You can walk up and heft the back of that hive again, and you can go, oh, they're still heavy. That's a pretty good indicator they've still got lots of food. And again in February and March. And so I use that heft test just to get an idea of, okay, they're heavy enough. And I can do that to a hive, and I can heft it and I go, oh yeah, they're heavy enough, leave them alone. Or nope, they're too light. This hive needs some feed. So with as many hives as, I'm running, I think I'm up to about 45 at the moment. About half of those are nukes. But with these my production hives, there's 3 medium boxes, which is same as 2 deep. I can tell just by lifting the hive whether it's got enough food on it. And I don't have to dig down into the nest, just heft it a little bit, and I can go, oh yeah, plenty of food, they're good. Next.
Do you do the whole hive, or do you just do like one of the top boxes? Or
no, I reach down to the bottom board and pick up and just I'm not trying to pick up the whole hive. I'm just picking up the back end of it.
Just lift it a little bit.
Just lift it a little bit. You can get an idea of how heavy it is, and that gives me a great reference point for figuring out these bees are light or these bees are heavy. And then come early spring, late winter, early spring, I can do the same thing, and I don't have to open the hive now to know whether or not they're hungry.
Yeah, I think as I look forward, like this week, I'll probably mostly leave them alone. Keep feeding, leave them alone. I likely will go into that one super seeder hive.
See
Yeah, just to see what the story is. Like if they did supersede, or if I see a bunch of supersede your cells in there, I probably won't do anything anyway, because what am I gonna do? Like I guess I could combine hives, which would be fine. Like maybe I'll do that, but my other two hives are already massive. They're overpopulated for the space that they have. So let's see if they can make it on their own. Like we'll see if they can
just
do
let
it.
them
Like,
let them do their thing.
yeah, what would Bracken say if he were here? It'll work or it won't. So maybe I'll video that one. But I've got one of my hives that's super spicy right now. Like they're like even feeding them. I'm going out there trying to feed these ladies, and they're like bumping me. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, don't do that. Like, I'm trying to feed you. But
Yeah, that's the other thing. People, they get complacent and think, oh, my bees have been all nice and sweet all summer long, and now they go in their hives and these bees are angry.
yeah, they're a little picante.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll probably largely just leave them alone the next couple of weeks. If I do get in, it'll be pretty fast. And then not bee related, but lots of college football, Glade. Like I am like it's college football season. Go Cougs!
Go
Gold
Cougars!
Tide. Yeah, we got some football going on, so I'm planning on doing that.
I think the Cougars should be okay this week.
Yeah, I think they will. They will walk into.
This is just kind of a light scrimmage for them, right?
Yeah, we got to be careful, Glade.
Yeah.
This could go from a beekeeping podcast or a beekeeping live stream to a college football live stream. Nobody wants that. We got a freshman quarterback. It's nice. It'll be nice to have a cupcake game.
I like to watch it, but I don't get into it too deep.
Well, we got to talk about that, Glade. We got to fix it. Hey, this has been. Go ahead, Glade.
I was going to say if it's a Utah team, I'm probably rooting for them. So
yeah, I'm with you. Well, appreciate everybody joining tonight. Glade, thanks for dropping a bunch of knowledge and been super productive. Great topic. I think I'll pick up the live stream next week. You good for next week, Glade?
We should be good.
Okay.
Same time, same place.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
So thanks everybody for joining. Glad to have you. Hope your bees are doing well. Have a good night.